Do you remember Bob Dylan from the 60s and beyond? You remember his song, The Times They Are A-Changing? Blowing in the Wind? If I Had a Hammer? All those songs were sung by my people. I'm a child of the 60s. I was in high school and college during that time. Bob Dylan was one of my favorites, despite his nasal voice, his twangy voice. When I was in Florida State, I lived across the street from a house where all the guys would play him at top volume, way into the night hours, the wee morning hours actually, and they would sit on their front porch roof, which was flat, and drink beer while they listened to Bob Dylan. Now, I lived across the street from them in a house run by a scholarship foundation, also run by a bunch of Southern Baptists. So we could not sit on our roof and we could not drink beer. I wasn't old enough anyway. But we would listen to the guys across the street as they played Bob Dylan and other folk singers of those years and just love it. Just plain love it. Some of my other favorites were Judy Collins, Peter, Paul and Mary, Simon and Garfunkel, Joan Baez. My favorite songs are probably from that decade, but I can't stay in the 60s, nor do I want to. Life moves on. My mother used to say, the only constant in life is change. Got it from somebody a much longer time ago, from like 2,500 years ago. But do you ever think about that? The only thing constant in life is change. So much in our lives we do not want to change. We may really like how things are, yet nothing stays the same forever. Right now, Good Shepherd is at an exciting point of change. After having a founding pastor for 30 plus years, it went through an interim period and then called another senior pastor with his own special gifts. After some time under his leadership, it entered another interim time. And now, as I write this devotion, on the day when the congregational meeting will be held, the congregation will meet the candidate and vote on calling this person. And by the time this is broadcast on Wednesday, you will know that a call has been extended and a new era will soon begin under the leadership of a new senior pastor. Transition, moving from one place, time, experience, or reality, is simply a fact of life. Change is not all bad or even all good. Life is a mixed bag, and our best way to walk through it is by living in the middle of it. We embrace change because we have no other choice. We are stretched by it, but we are also blessed by it. For example, no one saw the changes ahead of time that this pandemic would bring. 6 months ago, the idea of virtual meetings, virtual worship, or even virtual congregational meetings was on no one's radar. And yet we have lived with the new ways of doing these things. It has not always been easy, but God is still leading us. Change must come as we boldly face the evils of racism in our country. We have people crying out for justice, and we must listen and move seeking real justice in our communities. The gospel of Jesus Christ calls us to action, and that will mean change in the way we think, speak, legislate, interact, and live as God's children. Remember this verse from the 13th chapter of Hebrews? Jesus Christ is the same today, the same yesterday and today and tomorrow. Rather than saying that nothing ever changes in our world, this verse reminds us of the faithfulness of Jesus from the beginning of time to the end of it. It reminds us that in the midst of change, we have a faithful Lord who leads the way because he never changes in loving us, leading us, and living with us. That faithfulness will guide us and give us courage for all that comes to us in this life, and it will guide us into the next one, where we will live with our Lord eternally. We hold on to that promise through all the changes of life because it is trustworthy and true. May your heart be filled with the love of Christ as you encounter change in your life. Amen.